a game changer. Got a big plan, he a big man with a big hand and a haymaker. I done been in the pit, I knew I had to submit, but my God, he got me up. I done had enough, he got me out the mud, now I done caught a bus. Ain't nothing my God can't do. When I was down, my God came through. Dead in my sin, my God made new. I'm a work in progress, God ain't through. Oh, what you know about dirty needles? Down with the low like dirty people. I was on the other side serving evil. Now I fly high with the birds and the eagles. Hold tight to the promises and I'ma run with it. I don't care how long it is, and I'ma use my gift. Man, the song is his. I choose God all day.
You're going to stand by your teacher. Stand up, lady. And listen.
Springfield, but you're going to get some history of that too.
Stay right there.
What I would love for everybody to do, and by the way, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to probably sound like one, right? Don't worry about it. Is for everyone to stay in a circle so you can hear with this megaphone. We don't want a front row here and the people in the back. Wait. It's named because of him. Then, in 1603, 100 years later, the first, we're talking about history of cut match and enslavement and how it came out. The first black man, Ventrilla, he was working on a Spanish ship commanded by Diego Ramirez, and he was asked to go, or told to go, to the island, get on the island and get some wood. And he was the first black person in history that's recorded to arrive in Bermuda. And he went on land and he was a bit scared because the cowhows were making a lot of noise. And that's how Bermuda has its name, the Devil Isles, because of the noise of the birds, the cowhow birds. And then in 1609, what happened? There was a sea venture, was on its way to Jamestown. Bermuda was not inhabited at all by anybody. It just had birds and some hogs from shipwrecks. But in 1609, there was a hurricane, and the sea venture was shipwrecked here, and the other boats went down to the ocean. And 150 travelers and one dog arrived in Bermuda. We had 60 people come to Bermuda and settle in Bermuda. And in 1616, one Indian and one Negro came to Bermuda. That's in the record book. Now, it was the coast, wooden coast with doggle and mud. So it was like a wooden house that was there in 1671. Okay, and then it's in 1740, you see the house that was there now was being built. So it took 100 years, and you have the wooden house, the stone house here, and we had enslaved people in the quarters in the back. There were 19 enslaved records, and that is actually coming up to this time. You guys hear me now? Chris might jump on 2 minutes. So do you guys know what enslavement is or slavery is?
You know what that is? You know what enslavement is?
But the annual celebration of that freedom, which created cup match. And you all know what cup match is, right? Okay. The first official match, the Royal Naval Field, and a colorful display of what happened during that era of Bermuda cup match. At Emancipation, the free black population celebrated their freedom by having picnics, dances, and gatherings. By the turn of the century, we're not sure exactly what time or what date, the St. George's and the Somerset Lodges had begun playing each other in an annual friendly cricket match as part of that picnic celebration. And those were held somewhere between mid-July and mid-August every year. In 1901, None of you guys were around there, right? In 1901, after a particular thrilling clash in St. George's, where the home team won by 1 run of the last man, Ian. Any St. George's fans? You guys won in 1901. How's that? It was suggested after that match, it was suggested that there would be an annual match and it would be played for, and that would be played. Subsequently, a meeting was held in St. George's between the two lodges, the West End Lodge and the East End Lodge. And it was decided at that meeting that they will have next year, the following year would be 1902, that they'll have a 3-game series which will play for that cup. And after that 3-game series, they'll go to an annual one match following year in 1903. And so for 1902, by a flip of a coin, Somerset won the chance to host the first game on June 12th rather, at the Royal Naval Field, right here on this field. This is where that first game was played. The first innings of that game ended in a sensational 73-73 tie. In the second innings, Somerset were moved down for 24 runs. St. George's crossed that score with 7 wickets in hand and gained the distinction of being the first to possess the Covenant Cup. Somerset traveled to St. George's for the second game on July 10th, again batting first. The challenger scored 83 runs and then blew St. George's out for 53. Somerset's second innings total was 97 and they put St. George's down for 40 runs. Somerset won by 87 runs. All set for their third and deciding game that would be right back here at Naval Field. And that was on August 1st of that year. And St. George's batted first, scored 34 runs. Somerset were 65 for the loss of 6 wickets when pandemonium broke out. 4 of those wickets had fallen to Joe Brangman, who was one of the most feared men from the East, one of the most feared bowlers. He had claimed 17 of Somerset's wickets in the previous game. Star batsman at the wicket for Somerset was George Trott on 26 and Sammy Bird on 17. Brangman ran in to bowl a delivery to Trott. Trott swung and missed the ball. The bails came off the stumps and Trott was given out. He refused to walk, claiming that Nicky Calabras had picked the bails off in one of his characteristic lightning fast stumbling to get it one of flashes as a wicketkeeper. Trott's mother ran onto the field, followed by practically everyone else, but for different reasons. She went to her son and ordered that he behave himself and leave the field as he'd been given out. In the melee that followed, the umpire declared the game abandoned. That took place right here at this field. Okay? With that little history of the first official cup match in 1902, we are standing on the ground for that very first cup match played over 120 years ago. Those early years, the Somerset matches are played here on this field until 1949 when Somerset Cricket Club was built, and in St. George's they were played on the old Garrison Field until 1921 when the St. George's Club was built. This field was known as the Royal Naval Field, and in 2007 rather, it was renamed the Warren Simmons Field in memory of the historic Somerset Cricket Club captain and later president of Somerset Cricket Club. It was during his presidency that in 1946, the land where Somerset Cricket Club now was purchased and the existing club was built. Warren Simmons also, who knows about this little piece? Warren Simmons has played in Somerset for what outside of cricket? Sports. What else? Ice cream. Nobody knows about Warren Simmons ice cream? Oh, you guys missed the treat. You guys tell me Mr. Tucker said you guys missed the treat. Best sherbet in the island was Warren Simmons' sherbet. This factory was right up here on the corner here. But Mr. Simmons was known for the ice cream factory. Before the game, he worked the entire night making sherbet and ice cream for his customers and, of course, for his own refreshment stand. Early in the morning, he made his deliveries, then went off and played a cup match. If they ran short during the game, he'd take his break and go replenish the stand to make and stock everybody up with more sherbet and ice cream. Now, let me speak to some of the color of that era. In the early 1930s, Somerset Cricket Club rented the lower floor of the Fairview Inn on Main Road, Somerset. Anyone know where the Fairview Inn would have been?
Right there.
I pointed over there.
Pointed it? Right. That was the clubhouse. That was the clubhouse used during that time. Okay? It was owned by Miss Henrietta Durant. She ran a boarding house on the upper level, and two of those early residents were Isaac Henry and Victor Scott. Please remember those names because you'll hear them later. The cup match team was selected a week before the game, usually on the Thursday, and for Miss Durant, that meant it was time to start her preparation. There were pigs to be slaughtered, chickens to be killed, puddings to be made, cassava and coconut to be grated up, dried apricots, apples to be soaked in for fruit pies. Gingerbread was made in large kegs, which were later transferred to clear fifth bottles purchased from Gazi. The bottles were corked and they are tied down, the tops are tied down so they wouldn't explode because the gingerbread expanded. I don't know if any, you guys probably remember that. There's a talking, you may remember when they used to make the homemade gingerbread, right? Yeah, no, but you had to tie the top down. I know root beer, made up the root beer. Okay. On a plot of land opposite St. Joseph's Church, you know St. Joseph's Church is the pink building there, right? On a plot of land opposite there, Mr. Whitecross slaughtered the pig, killed the chickens. The pigs were skinned and the chickens plucked. Once ready, the pork and the chicken were cut into small pieces and graciously seasoned with salt, pepper, and nutmeg. This was added uncooked to the traditional cassava batter. Mrs. Durant believed that pre-cooked meat changed the flavor of the pie and caused it to spoil quickly. Wood was burned in the brick ovens until the bricks on top and sides became white. They were so hot. To test the oven's temperature, eggshells, because remember, they didn't have thermostats in your ovens back then, right? They didn't have all of that, it was brick ovens. So to test to make sure it was hot enough or cooked enough, they put eggshells in there. When eggshells turned brown, the temperature was right. Mrs. Durant had contracted to feed the police officers. They dined on the veranda outside there, while customers ate inside. There was no refrigeration, everything had to be fresh, and the menu consisted of roast lamb with potatoes, vegetables, free-run chicken, rice, cassava pie, baked ham, potatoes, green salad. For dessert, they had baked custard, plain cake, plum and bread pudding, fruit and coconut pies, lemonade, and gingerbread. The home of Mr. and Mrs. Andrew Simmons was located on the corner opposite the primary school here. They catered to the man of Mariah Hill, Dockyard, and local fans. Before dawn, with the assistance of the children, preparation began. The Iceman began his run. The Iceman, that's right, they had to bring ice around to you. The Iceman began his runs around 6 a.m. The ice was placed in carcass bags, the canvas bags, and sawdust and placed in galvanized tubs. Buckets of water for washing. The dishes were dipped out of the tank and set on top of the tank to warm so it'd be nice and hot to wash with later in the day. While the wives prepared the food, the husbands rented space to carriage drivers in shady, grassy area, and that was right here where Marketplace is. There was no Marketplace building there, but that's where they used to park the horse and carriages. Okay? After her marriage, Mrs. Durant's granddaughter, Henrietta, and her husband, Edmund Carney, ran a food stall on the corner up there as well. Mr. Campbell Richardson delivered the sodas from Sterling's Mineral Water Factory at 1 a.m. They were a variety of flavors, Asperella, root beer, orange, lime, pineapple, and Sterling's Stern gingerbread. They delivered at that hour because it was cooler for the horses to get out and do all the deliveries. The cup match day arrived before dawn. Enthusiastic fans arrived by hired carriages, horse-driven express, train, bicycle, and on foot. Men wore doe-skin pants and blazers. Women wore heavy starched linen suits. Men also wore heavy linen starched suits, long-sleeve shirts and ties. Others were in shearsucker suits. They wore white helmets, Panama and biscuits hats with their colors wrapped around the top. Some wore caps displaying their team colors. Their white box were clean to perfection. What a white box. Give me a guess. Somebody, what are your white box? Your white shoes. They carried a cup match of white shoes. White shoes and a suit. The man had on a suit all day, right? Okay. They strutted around the field carrying a walking stick with the colors wrapped around it that was made by the master craftsman, Mr. John Davis. Shorts were only worn by the English. Bermudians never removed their jackets or tie during the entire game. They were gentlemen dressed for a gentleman's game. Can you imagine going to a cup match in a suit and tie? Standing in that suit and tie on it, and having your white shoes on? Okay. Well, the woman wore dresses made of silk, satin, lace, and here's one for you. The dresses all made of were also made of shark skin. Shark skin. Ladies, you want to try that one out for me one year? Shark skin dresses. High heel shoes and silk stockings in every color but red were worn. Many wore straw hats and some dyed them to match their outfit, which would be a disaster in the rain because the dye ran out all over their clothes. A parasol and a picnic basket completed the outfits. And here's for your children. The children went to cup match in their Sunday best. And they had to stay clean in their Sunday best. Can you imagine going to cup match in your Sunday best? No. Okay. The teams arrived at the field smartly dressed in doeskin pants and blazers of blue and blue or red and blue. They wore caps with their team insignia on front, and the game began promptly at 10 o'clock. If you lived in Pembroke and could not attend, the results were telephoned to Phoenix Drugstore. It was then written on a large blackboard which was placed outside. Reed Street was crowded with children on paddle bikes who were sent to report the results. So they arrived to Phoenix, get the result, and they arrive back to their neighborhoods with the result. All during the day, they're going back and forth. Normally at 6 p.m., the game was complete. On the final day, some of the game band marched the St. George's team, win, loss, or draw, back to the Corona for the voyage back east. Mr. Tucker, what was the Corona? Oh, Tucker, now, yeah. The Corona was the ferry boat. The Corona was the ferry boat that brought the teams up and down every year. And they left them up a bridge. That's right. There you go, remember the upper bridge. During the 20s and 30s, the bazaars were arranged by the lodges and subsequent clubs, and they were played every night, the Granite City Thursday night. Now, at the next stop that I'll speak will be at the field, and at that one I'll talk about the 113-year protest, the game itself, some of the rackets, and the pitch. So enjoy the rest of this party tour, and I'll speak the game when we get up to the club. Thank you.
Top man. And unfortunately, Pat knew it, but she has said in her possession, prized possession. Still has ribbons on it from the, not they put the ribbons on it, so they stayed red and blue ribbons on it. Also here, the building through here, that was once the home of Thompson Cricket Club. Before it went to that corner thing. And I'll point out another place before temporary. We're walking, heading west. Okay.
Are we leaving? Let's go.
This is Long Bay Lane, and this is Long Bay Methodist Church. Long Bay Methodist Church was established, this church was established in 1861. Other churches, particularly in St. George's, the Wesley Methodist Church was established earlier. And they did much to assist with the freedom, with free blacks after 1834. Also, this is a spot with the shop, St. Albert Simmons Coffee Shop. This is a shop that was run by fellow named Oswilla Philpott, my great uncle. He was the founder of the West End Sailboat Club, and he was the founder of the Somerset Football Club, the former Somerset Trojans, and they started playing at West End School in the 1920s. So he's quite a gentleman. He's also a lodge member, and we're going to the lodge next. He also started the West End Sailboat Club in 1944. And yesterday we had the long distance sailboat race, and that was the 82nd annual sailboat race that we've held. Finished in Somerset. And next year we have in St. George. Our next stop is the lodge up the hill. We're going to Gable Avenue.
Bring me down, love is too heavy. Bring me down, kingdom. Bring me down, I say, 'cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like we're wrong without a roof. 'Cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. 'Cause I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is for you. 'Cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like we're wrong without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
That's better. And Miss Rashida is going to be Goldfred is going to give you a little bit of history about the lodge, the building in front of you.
Yes, this is a lodge. It's part of what we call the Friendly Society. Had you heard that before, that term? Friendly societies were created. There were people who were at Emancipation in 1934. Friendly societies were people, helping societies. They were people who were free blacks generally. And when Emancipation happened in August 1934, those were the persons that created facilities or helped facilitate free blacks with education, with employment, with school, and with churches. And what evolved later on in 1957, the Friendly Societies of the Lodge movement came from Bermuda. This is a lodge. This is the Victorian Albert Lodge, which was established in 1857. One of 3 lodges established by the Grand United Order of Lodge Fellows. There's one here, there's one in St. George, which is the Summers Lodge, where the old theater was, and there's one in Hamilton, Alexandrina Lodge, which is on Court Street, where Susie Harvey's dance studio is. That's another lodge. So those lodges were created in the 1850s. And later on, other lodges came. There's a lodge around the road called Laurier Sister. I remember that. It's disappeared now. But many lodges were established in Bermuda. In fact, there were 3 dozen lodges established in Bermuda, part of the Friendly Society, to help different people in different areas. They did the schools, they did the churches, they did dates here, they had events. This was an area where people came, blacks came because that was time of segregation. So there's a lot of places we couldn't attend. So these places were created where we had our churches, we had our events. This is the place where we had tennis courts. There's a couple of places in some that had tennis courts. This is a big area where plays were held. This is a theater booth where there are booths and projectors on here. So we had theaters for performing artists. We had movies, and those were talking movies back in the day. And we had events, bazaars, and dances, and also stadium events where they were held. They continue today, but there's not much interest in the lodges. We have a Bermuda Friendly Society Association, which gets together, and that's a combination of all lodges that are left. But we're struggling. And as you see, this building is in disrepair. These buildings were rented by a church and moved up because damage to the roof. Same thing around the road, damage to the roof. We've got buildings, we're property rich, but we're cash poor. So we're looking to reuse these buildings for other uses, some interest. But that's something that happens in the future. This site here, Victoria Albert Lodge, was the site of the first black high school, and it was Sam Secondary High School between 1901 and 1902. And the first principal was Mr. Brathwaite from Jamaica. And in fact, we had numbers of principals come from Jamaica, so I'll tell you later on in the But this is the high school. This is the first high school. But this is also the building that high school within school used for their play and activities because they didn't have the theaters or auditorium. So it needs some work, and in your lifetime, there'll be pretty soon some things happening here. We're going next. We're going to go up to the corner. We're going to cross the street, and then we're going to go. Yeah. We're going to stop at the St. James Church on the same side right here. That's our next stop. The Anglican Church. And at the very beginning of the West End School, the West End School was also located here. It's located here in a little building there where the church hall is, and that was the Sunday school, where the West End School first started, earlier started. St. James Church, most of this property was donated to the church by the Tankard family, and all this area up there is Tankard. It's called Tankard Lane, and all persons there on this area are descendants of the Tankard family. The Tankard family were also very much involved in the lodge, my lodge, Loyal Sister Lodge, run at Main Road, Somerset. And it was a Sunday school where the hall is. That was the black Sunday school. Because of segregation, blacks went to that school and other side to the other side. Now, we're leaving here and we're going up to West End School on Scotts Hill Road.
Did you say what year was it?
What year was it?
Right here?
I didn't say, but my grandmother went there. She was born in 1889.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
West End School's early beginnings. Any graduates here from West End School? Who went to West End? Good. So this is the West End School. And there's something West End School had some interesting beginnings. I've pointed a couple of places where it began. Where it really became West End School was when it moved over to Flat Top, where your school is now. That's where West End School had its humble beginnings. And its first principal, I think in 1915, was Isaac Henry, who came here and taught as principal of West End School. Isaac Henry was quite a cricketer, and he taught cricket to the West End School students, generally those in Somerset. In fact, Isaac Henry went on to play for Cup Match from 1927 to 1931. I mentioned earlier that the West End, that the Somerset Trojans and Somerset football team started right here under the direction of Ossie Philpott, and that's now the Trojans. So the humble beginnings of Cup Match and the teams were played here, as well as the football teams were played here at West End School. West End School had some issues last couple of years. Government has decided to do some changes to the educational system. We fought it, and we're still here. They're still working on it. Still got some real issues. Anything else, Pat? Any other points? West End School is, back in the day, was the champion school, and I went to Heron Bay School, and this is where inter-school sports were held. And West End School was always the champions in the West, and at times they beat out Central for the inter-school sports. Yes, but I guess that's about it for West End School. We're now going down to Somerset Cricket Club and to finish up the presentation. Going down to last stop.
Somerset Cricket Club.
Front and center. Thank you.
Good morning. We're at our final stop. Everyone got a little exercise walking here this morning?
Yes.
For those who live in Somerset, and for those who support St. George's, you both want to know that this is the home of the current Cup Match champions, right?
Somerset!
Current Cup Match champions. We're at the current and the home. The Cup. Let me tell you a little bit about the Cup. In my earlier presentation, I mentioned, I talked about the 1901 meeting in St. George's, where they decided to have a cup. The cup was designed by input from both lodges. It was designed by input from both lodges, and it was sent off to the UK to be created. It cost a big penny to get it done back then. It was 20 guineas. That's what we paid to get that cup built in 1901. Also, according to the late Cup Match historian Percival Rattery, it was not until Cup Match was agreed upon that the two cricket clubs actually came into being. Before then, they were just playing cricket as friendly societies. Neither club was established until then. In 1983, the Heritage Magazine, Mr. Rattery wrote that although some of the best cricketers belonged to the lodges, there are many and others and batted who did not. So the annual Cup Match was decided upon to form the clubs so that they can pick from the best of players in their communities. The colors, Mr. Walter Darrow, a former member of the St. George's Corporation and a tailor by profession, was personally the one who selected the blue and blue for St. George's. The red and blue colors of Somerset, the champions. However, research does not credit any one individual for coming up with the colors. Let me get a little history of the pitch. You all know what the pitch is, right? Everybody knows what the pitch is, what the wicket is?
Yes.
Okay. In the early days, it was a rough pitch that they played on. The first Cup Match at Wellington was played on red clay. Then they replaced it with cinder in 1923, and the next year, a concrete wicket was laid, and a matting. For those old guys who know about cricket, you put down a matting on top of that concrete wicket, and that matting was made of coconut, skins. That stayed like that until 1971, when Somerset introduced a turf wicket out here on this field, and that turf wicket is what we play Cup Match on either end historically ever since then. The game itself, the format of the game, in the 1901 meeting agreed that the winner would hold a cup and host the annual Cup Match until the challengers won it back. So that meant Somerset has won this trophy now for 10 odd years. The game would have stayed here for the last 10 years plus, right? That's how it used to be. But then the winner-take-all concept worked well as long as both teams were evenly matched, so to speak. In the 1930s and 40s, St. George's found themselves on the losing side of that when Somerset was winning consistently. So in 1941, the format was adopted to switching the venue every 2 years, regardless of who won or lost. Somerset felt that same pinch in the 60s and 70s when St. George's was on a winning streak. Somerset, for those Somerset folk around here, you should know, we won the cup back in 1979. In 1979, I was 21 years old, and that's the first time I seen the cup won in my life. We had lost for a 20-year streak. Okay, so 71 was a big celebration for us. And the format in 1995, we switched this format where every year it rotates. Where Somerset hosts in the even years, St. George's hosts in the odd years. So that both clubs can get to share in the celebration of hosting cup match, not only for the celebration of it, but also for the revenue that's made, because our clubs benefit from that revenue. And it's best that it's felt by everybody. Okay? The holiday, before the war, the match had always started on Thursday so that people could take advantage of the weekly half-day holiday when many sporting events were held. If you don't know, historically, Bermuda was shut down Thursday afternoons. And sporting events, weddings, and things like that took place on Thursday afternoons because the island closed down half-day. By the 1940s, many businesses gave Friday as a general holiday to their staff, and those that didn't found their staff too ill to come in on Friday, but well enough to watch cricket. They would take off anyway and go watch cricket. In November of 1964, Bermuda parliamentarians were embroiled in a passionate debate about the subject dear to the hearts of black Bermudians, a public holiday for cup match. Given that era, because this was during segregation, it's surprising that a topic of black anything made it on the floor of Parliament. Bermuda was deeply segregated during that time. Only 70% of the population had property to do vote. The debate that actually took place was a debate about naming names for all, putting an act together for all public holidays. The cup match piece was slipped in as an add-on, and it took 2 years, so a year and a half rather, for it finally to pass, having to negotiate back and forth, okay? When it finally passed in May of 1947, Parliament passed that cup match would be a holiday, the Thursday and the Friday. That ended, what we like to say, that ended 113 years, that was 113 years after Emancipation, on the 1st of August, 1834. It was a 113-year protest, and I put it like that because we only have a cup match holiday because people like us fought to make sure that our cup match, our emancipation, was recognized in a real way. It was significant. Emancipation should be something that we should always remember. When we celebrate cup match, it's not about the game. It's about the freedom of people. And that's what the holiday is for. And we should always remember that's what it was about. Right? Aaron, how are you? You should always remember that's what cup match is about. It's about a celebration of your freedom. Because until then, you didn't have that freedom until 1834. And cup match, the celebration of that was when the lodges got together and decided to play those friendly matches, which turned out to be cup match. I knew you asked a question. I'm open to questions. Did you say something? Okay, from your country. What the young man there is saying is his country, his freedom didn't come too much later. So you should all understand that there are still people today.
Technically, maybe I should talk a bit about my country's history first.
Well, let me just tie that in. What I want you all to understand, there are still people in the world today who are suffering from oppression. And you should never take for granted that somewhere along the line you were given freedom. And that's what cup match is about. It acknowledges the fact that you were given freedom to do as you like and live as a full citizen. Okay? But there are some people, even to this day, who do not have that freedom in their country. So don't take your cup match holiday lightly. Don't take it as just a time to get together and party around a cricket game, a time to drink and celebrate like some people want to do. That's not what it's about. is about acknowledging that we are free people because of something that took place in 1834. And some people in this world still don't have their freedom today. The results, there are now, some that have now won 40, I think it's 41 cup matches now. Georgians have won 32. There have been 48 draws, 49 draws now rather. One cup match was missed, and any time cup match was missed during the curling. Okay? The most runs was scored by Gennaro Tucker, 1,491. St. George's, the highest score was Charlie Marshall, 1,357. The highest individual score, Gennaro Tucker, 186. For St. George's is Lloyd James with 173. The most wickets for St. George's is Darren Paul with 115 wickets. For Somerset is Warren Simmons with 94. The most catches, Gennaro Tucker has 32. Charlie Marshall has 25 for St. George's. The youngest cup match player. You can tell me the youngest cup match player is. Clyde Best. Clyde Best. Yeah. You must read that when you walk across every day, right? That's right. It's right down where the wall. I know you all know where the mirror is.
I only learned that today.
Every night is today, you must respect the mirror today. See that's why we put that on the wall, so you know that bit of history about Clyde. But Clyde is the youngest cup match player. And St. George's younger player was Noel Gibbons. The longest cup match career was by a St. George's player named Alex Steed. He played for over 30 years. He played from 1922 to 1951. Okay? And with that, there's a brief history of cup match, but I want you all to remember that cup match is not about the game itself. Cup match is about a celebration of freedom. A freedom that you fought for, a freedom that our forefathers fought for to get a holiday. 113 years that was the fight, a protest, a quiet protest to get us a holiday. Okay? So don't ever take it for granted. And where you walking? Down close to you?
Please give
We're gonna
round of applause.
walk.